yourself by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. So, Bowden. This was 91% last night. It's now 84%. Seems like the rumors are picking up that Biden's going to drop out of the presidential race. From what I'd seen, it seems pretty much all but confirmed. And then back across to BTC. So, looking at a weekly perspective, this is exactly where it can remain bearish. So this is the place you want to keep your eyes peeled. From a high into a low, to a lower high, into a lower low. This area can be a lower high, so worth noting that. And the difficult part about these areas is that if Bitcoin spends 1 or 2 weeks there, like it did over here, that could be bearish, or it could be really bullish. Like, it's a difficult area to predict what's going to happen next. So you don't want to. You want to just allow price to develop, price action to play out. I think I'd say the best possible setup would be some type of continuation higher and then a fall back into a retest that takes another few weeks. Reason being is the longer it takes to get back down to that area would indicate, at least in the near term, more demand. You know, if you just drop back down here after only moving up for 2 or 3 days, it can indicate a lack of demand, probably more so that it was just a short squeeze and that anything up here was unable to sustain and it drops back. So the longer Bitcoin spends here and sort of above 64, let's call it, the better. The more of a base that gets built. I don't think there is a catalyst to make us go higher until probably September. That's my view, unless you get a surprise Fed rate cut on, when is it, 31st of July. The odds of a rate cut at this next meeting, though, are very, very low, only 4%. Yet the odds of a rate cut at the very next meeting, complete opposite, 98%. So I think somebody knows, right? And it's not even that somebody knows. Powell has sort of given some forward guidance hinting at that. They don't really do forward guidance outright anymore, but Powell has indicated that September is more likely. So that's also 18th of September, so that's kind of mid to late September. And it'd be interesting to see if there's any political moves, because obviously Trump is just running away with the race. The 62% now. Biden, 5%. So markets think that Kamala Harris is in line against him. Probably your best bet would be other Democrat politician, I would say. Because if Biden drops out, then the Democrats go into like a fucking, what would you call it? Like a playoff or fucking whatever to vote for the next person. I mean, they probably will go with Harris, but that's the worst. Like, that's literally the worst odds ever. These odds reflect the fact that she's most likely to run out of the Democrats, right? Which obviously means she should have a higher percentage chance of winning if she's the most likely to run. Except there's no fucking way she beats Trump. Not a chance. Like, zero. In a fair election, okay, there's the caveat. It's probably why she's 22% and not zero. The election might not be fair. But she, brutal, will get destroyed. Somebody else coming from the outside might actually have a better chance than her, because she's shown for 4 years that she's just dog shit. Anyway, ETF flows have subsided after a couple of good weeks. You're starting to see some lower flows and more persistent outflows from Grayscale. And that's all causing to kind of slow Bitcoin down, stop it in its tracks. But I want to look now at some of the data. What are people actually doing? What are traders doing here? I'm going to look at Velo and I'm going to look at Coinalize, because if you watched the altcoin request stream yesterday, you'll know a little rant I said at the beginning of it, which I'll briefly summarize here again. everything goes up together in crypto, right? So if Bitcoin has a bullish move, people go, oh, we need to buy alts, right? It doesn't work the other way around. You never get a situation where fucking Cardano, which is a top 10 or top 15, Cardano has a big move, and then the market thinks, wow, Cardano's on the move, better buy Bitcoin, right? And even Ethereum, which is the second biggest, Ethereum doesn't even really... I've never seen Ethereum lead Bitcoin in a bullish sense, meaning it was early. Anytime you see Ethereum leading, it's generally later stage in a rally or later stage in a cycle. Or like the merge in 2022 when we were in the middle of a bear market, and then ETH rallied like 100% and Bitcoin rallied like 30%. So ETH led, but obviously we went lower after that. So when you understand that, you'll know that traders will buy after they feel Bitcoin is bullish again. So that's usually when it goes up, breaks the market structure, gets above the moving averages, and then they'll start to pile into alts. Well, we had exactly that. We had Bitcoin with 5 green days in a row, and so people would have started allocating into alts, and then it stalls out. And if people have bought Bitcoin all the way up, and if people have now also added into alts on the way up, who is there, who's going to come along and buy aggressively now to push their positions higher in the short term? There isn't really anyone. We're coming off the back of 4 months of brutal chop, right? And so many people have lower portfolios than they did before because they will have not been able to sit on the sidelines. They won't have had patience. They'll have leverage traded in here, lost some money, or they'll have bought, an altcoin, right? If you bought Bitcoin, even at the peak, even if you bought Bitcoin on the peak day, your portfolio is only down 13%. But if you put your money across a basket of alts, you could be down 70, 80, 90%. This is important because there isn't a new wave of people coming in. All right, we basically have the same amount of people that we had 3 months ago. So there isn't a new wave of money. And if there isn't a new wave of money and people have less money than before because their bags are down, what does it leave you with? It leaves you with anybody who has bought on this push has bought. I don't think there's any more demand short term. That means we need to consolidate, right? So if we go down and up and down, right, that will allow positioning to change hands as Bitcoin builds. People sell and then they buy at the highs and they sell at the lows, buy at the highs, and eventually the strong hands will accumulate enough Bitcoin where it can go higher. And then altcoins will follow after that later on. And, even more important than that, that type of consolidation, let's say Bitcoin does pull back and have more of a bullish consolidation forming a higher low, altcoins won't be able to sustain, every altcoin won't be able to sustain that same kind of move. So if that's Bitcoin and then this is an alt and they're both at the same place now, the alt will probably look more like that and then move up while Bitcoin holds higher. Because there's just not going to be enough capital, not enough people, not enough interest to hold up all of these coins. What is good and what you should watch over the next couple of weeks, if this plays out, so if this ends up being bullish, is watch which altcoins actually did form consolidations, right? Which alts didn't pull back as deep. So Ethereum, that's actually a really nice early consolidation, tight, squeezed together. You're not seeing a lot of volatility. You want to see volatility absolutely die on these coins. It is the best thing you could see. You want to see small candlesticks after this impulse move. So right now Ethereum has perfect setup. That's now we're on the 4th day after the impulse where Ethereum's staying within a tight range, and in fact the range is compressing even tighter. I'll show you what I mean with this. When you want to see moves that lead to bigger sustained trends, that's what you want to see. After the move up, you want to see a consolidation that holds tight. So even over here, you can see here the first few days of this consolidation after the impulse up, it failed to go lower. Then it chopped around up and up and up and down and sideways and sideways and sideways. But of course, this was bullish, right? This all eventuated with up, over, never went back to those lows. Again, same thing here. As it rallied off the lows, and I want you to compare these two. This move was too soon. This move was just in time. So Ethereum had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green days in a row with an impulse and an impulse. But the very next day, it retraced the whole thing, bearish engulfing. What happened? Bleeds all the way back down to the lows. Right? Next time it comes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Impulse is higher. Has some volatility for 2 days. Right? Quiet day, then a volatile day, but then this. Very important. Volatility dies, and it just starts to drift higher and grind higher. That kind of thing is exactly what you're looking for on whatever coins you're bullish on, right? Same over here. Even as Ethereum broke out above the 2700 level, consolidations were low volatility, no big pullbacks, very quiet market, and then it just starts to drift higher, and that's continuation. Once you start to see more volatility, like here, right? Once you had that impulse into the highs, and look how volatile those next 3 days were. You had a big impulse candle into the highs, 1, 2, 3, retraces the whole thing, and boom, top. So, here we go. This is not, by the way, like it's not like it's going to happen. This could go like that today and it's all fucked. But what you want to see is if it tries to go lower and it fails and you see it just sort of drifting higher like that, if it does something like that where it has very low volatility and just starts to grind higher over the coming weeks, that would be a clear sign of a bullish market. Now, ETH ETFs are going to go live on the 23rd, which is next Tuesday. So, you know, don't be surprised if there's some volatility around those days. That would make sense, right? As for Solana, I mentioned on the other day with the volume chart, but basically moves over here, consolidates. Moving above a previous high and then just consolidating outside of it is a very, very, very good sign. For me, Solana above 170 is where it's most interesting. So what I would want to see is something like this. It moves up, it comes back, it reclaims, and that. That 170 is the old value area. And it's right inside of this breakdown candle as well. So there's a daily candle that preceded the breakdown on Solana, which is like a bearish order block over here if you see it. Broke down, moved up, couldn't flip it to support, back down. Now we're retesting it. You want to see it get through, come back, get through, hold it, flip it, and away it goes. If the market is as bullish as I think it can be, you want to see this next phase take like 3 or 4 weeks. If you look over here, this phase where we'd moved off the lows and then we consolidate, right? So that's like what we've done here. We've moved off the lows and we're consolidating. It then had a move up, but not a slow move up, just grinds up, retraces the whole thing, forms a higher low. Time is the main thing, because in this whole move, until you had the impulse breakout, it was 3 weeks, 21 days. That's important because when Ethereum had this volatility and then it chopped and chopped and chopped and pulled back and it broke down and then it reversed, people were not overall bullish here. People were worried that Solana was done, right? Because, of course, whenever you have these rallies, you're always worried about it ending, especially if you're not on board. So at the time, this looked like, oh, well, this can easily be done. It's going to go back down and fill in this gap below, right? It looks like a blow off top. You had the move up, blow off top. It looks like it's going to drift lower. If it can't hold there, then it's going to go all the way back down. That's what people were forecasting. People were forecasting a full retrace. Then, as you play it on, you'll see that Solana, so looked really bad there, right? Imagine how bad people felt there. And then you got this reversal back inside. Now, at this point, what you see now, which is difficult to get past because we just have a level of belief in the market that we didn't have before. When this happened on Solana back in January, people were not rushing in to buy this. They're like, I'll wait and see, which allowed it to just grind higher. And then they're like, well, I don't know, that might be bad. It's just swept the highs there. It's probably going to go back to the lows, right? Most people had more of a bearish lean. And then it started to drift higher. And then they don't know what to do, right? Because now it looks like, oh shit, maybe this is bullish. And of course, so they start to buy there. Then you get this really slow pullback. Sell off for like 2 full weeks. All the way down there. But a very bullish one. Makes a higher low. Low volume, low impulse. And then, boom, away it goes. And then the volatility comes back in over here. You'll notice that because the market was super bullish here, and then it got bearish in between, then you got a slow, low volatility grinding move higher. But as soon as it broke out again, what happened? Volatility comes back. Big candles, big wide wicks, huge sweeps in wicks. Because what? People start to pile in and get long again. People do not want to buy here. They're in fear. They don't want to buy here. They don't want to buy here. They don't like these small candles where price just kind of grinds higher. But that's the best thing you could see at the start of a move. So if you want to get positioned on that way, and you look at like Solana where it's at now, just as an example, it's quite good. I like how quiet it is at such a high price, right? Right now, people are sort of waiting, oh, well, there's going to be this pullback or there's going to be this deeper dip. And I look at it and think, well, it's just drifting higher, right? I don't see people getting max long on Solana here. They're probably more fearful to, because every time they've bought, it retraces back. And they buy and it pulls back. Then it goes higher, but then it retraces the whole thing. Then they buy this one and there's a Solana ETF application and it retraces the whole thing. So people get tired. And I think that if it's able to drift around here, you know, and just sort of move like that, that's where you'll see probably an impulse breakaway candle that will be a confirmation of a bullish market that's at least going towards the highs. And that's it overall. So I think we're going into now this period where probably a week or two of consolidation, and you want to just survive it and see how the markets shake themselves out. GM, GM, GM.